Super cool radio.
Hello everyone, I am Matthew Thomas. This is Super Cool Radio. Got a great guest in store for you guys for episode 114 of season 2. He is Patrick, the lead vocalist of Nine Stitch Method, the lead vocalist of South of Clarity, and the lead vocalist of Seethe. Plus, he owns Brutal Business Entertainment, really great record label out of Pennsylvania. We're going to have a great conversation with him talking about all things Brutal Business, Nine Stitch Method, Seethe, South of Clarity, and some new releases by Brutal Business Entertainment. Check all that out in this episode. Before we jump into this episode, we're going to feature Corridor by Nine Stitch Method. Enjoy. Have a great guest with me at this time. Check this out. He is the vocalist of Nine Stitch Method, the vocalist of Seethe, and the vocalist for South of Clarity, and the owner of Brutal Business Entertainment. Please welcome Patrick McElravy. Did I say that right?
Close enough.
Okay.
I'll give you an 8.
I like how you told me before and I still messed it up.
If it makes you feel any better, you still did it better than a lot of people do. So
good. Yeah. Well, that's good. I have a very easy name, so I don't have to. I don't have to worry about people messing it up. So, but thank you for hanging out with me. I'm glad we're off to a great start.
Thanks for having me, man. Great to be here.
All right, so I know we got much to chat about as we kind of discuss setting this interview up. So I kind of want to just start at the beginning. I know you kind of did a similar interview with similar questions with Zach, but I think definitely for my audience who is new to you and Brutal Business, how'd you get started as a musician?
Music's kind of always been in the blood. Both sides of my family growing up. Very very, very different sides. My dad's side was very much of the old school country, Grand Ole Opry, bluegrass and whatnot, where my mom's side was more like the rock and roll and whatnot growing up, hip hop and all that stuff. It was just one of them things. It was always around me, always had a knack for it, had an ear and everything. It's always been there.
Right on. I know. I believe you started on guitar. I want to say, if my notes are correct.
Yes. Been a guitarist. Started messing around with it when I was like 9 and 10, and then I really wanted to get serious with it. But I want to say I was 7th grade at the time. No. It would have been closer to. It would have been around like when I was 13 or 14. I'm going to say, but I tried doing sports and whatnot, and it was one of them things. My parents were like, well, you got to prove to us that you're going to stick with it if we're going to get you lessons and whatnot. So I sold my hunting rifle. I'll never forget. I went out to my dad's for the weekend and essentially sold my hunting rifle back to my grandfather so I could get the money to go get an acoustic guitar. And so we did that. On the way home, stopped at Target, bought this cheap Lion Washburn guitar for like $130, and then come home walking through the door with it. And my stepdad was like, fuck, we got to get him lessons now. So at the time, I was going to a private Christian school, and the man by the name of Dennis Kovac, he did the worship service and music every Sunday, and he started giving me lessons, and it just kind of took off from there, dude. Ever since, been a stone cold. Love playing all different kinds of different music, anything from acoustic, jazz, blues, hard rock, metal, anything and everything in between. I've always loved music, all different kinds.
Hell yeah, man, for sure. So obviously you started on guitar, but as I listened to my intro, so you're mainly a vocalist now for quite a few bands. So how was the transition to becoming a vocalist?
It was one of them things. I always wanted to sing. Like I said, I've always been a stone cold songwriter, and I always wanted to sing, but I didn't have the guts to get in front of people and do it in front of people. And I never took any kind of course or had any kind of teaching and whatnot. So yeah, played in several bands. Whenever Nine Stitch Method had started five years ago, that's crazy to think about. We'd started 5 years ago, me and Yeti, Josh Kolich, the guitarist. We talked and whatnot, and we played shows together and whatnot. And we were like, let's kind of do something, just for the hell of it, And at the time, both of our bands were kind of dissolving and whatnot. And it started out, we recorded like a 5-6 track demo. We were super stoked on it. And it was kind of like, okay, like we did that. And then our bands broke up, and Josh had been like, oh, I booked us a show. And I was like, what? And we went back to our demos, and it was god awful, dude. It was like, why? My first inclination was like going back and listening, like really, really listening, and be like, why are you doing this with me? I'm freaking terrible. So we re-recorded everything, and we started playing as a 2-piece, and it was weird. A lot of people didn't like it. I mean, I'll be real with you, we were terrible when we first started. But we were kind of like, fuck it, we're making it happen. We're just going to go with it. We're liking what we're doing. And it's kind of been this little snowball effect as time gone on. We went from people in the Pittsburgh scene kind of giving us shit like, oh, you guys can't do backtracks and this and that, to where we have people coming up to us and they're like, yo, man, like really digging what you're doing with the whole 2-piece thing. Like, how do you guys do it? Any tips for me? I want to start doing something like that. And which it's humbling, but at the same time, like I tell everybody, just form a band. It's a lot easier. It's a lot of way. I mean, it is a lot of work in a lot of sense. And it's like, especially in a live setting, like we really have to work. And sometimes some gigs we get screwed, because the sound guy just sucks or doesn't. We've had guys fuck us over live just because the sound guy doesn't like what we're doing and he doesn't approve. You know what I mean? It's just one of them things. It's, we always show up to gigs early. We check out the sound situation, how we can go about it and how we can capitalize on it. But more often than not, things are pretty good for the most part anymore. We've been doing it a while.
It's always interesting, kind of fascinating me, like why people be so petty to screw other people over.
We played a show. It would have been 2019. It was in October. I'll never forget it. We were playing a small show. It was a one-man band, kind of akin to what 9SM does. His name was Desake. I can't remember his full name, but his project was called Divine Era. And it was like Pantera, like modern, like Pantera, Slipknot kind of type stuff. Dude could shred. Dude had a hell of a voice. He played guitar, sang, and he had his backtracks going, with bass and drums and whatnot. And I'll never forget, we're playing in mid-set. I'm watching the sound guy. He had his hand on the board, and he took the backtrack off. So it was just, and I was like, did we blow the monitor? What's going on? He's like, no, and he started turning it up. And the way it was set up, if I cut the mic and I stood in front of the one monitor right where he was with the board, if I screamed into it, crazy bad feedback. So I made sure to light him the fuck up the rest of our set. I mean, that hasn't happened in a minute. That doesn't, more often than not, we're okay. But yeah, it's just, you got to kind of roll with the punches, and, especially when you're doing some kind of weird with backtracks and whatnot, it is what it is. Just got to flow with it.
You definitely do, and unfortunately there's gonna be people like that, but it's cool. Like I've seen quite a few bands like that who just play with like backing tracks and only have like one or two members. I think it's always interesting. I always find it interesting because it's different, but you also have to put on, I think you have to put on a little bit more of a better show, or more of an entertaining show, because you have less people to work with, less instruments.
Yeah, you have like a big, like, I'll be real with you, like when it comes to, like, we've had the pleasure of opening up from Soil. Hinder, oddly enough, was a really good show for us considering how heavy we are. But we just got done opening up for Attila last month. And you really do, because it's just two of us on that big stage. And you really got to work with talking to the crowd. And I always make faces and stuff. As long as, like the Attila show, there was actually a pit going during our set. I ran down off the stage and got in the pit, and I was like, it was crazy. But you really got to work that, and you got to know how to do it. It's not something that happens just like that. I've seen other bands try and do what we do, and, not to be ignorant or anything, but it's like, no, that's not how you do it. Get a full band. But honestly, like the shows that I love the most, I love them big national headlining shows and whatnot, opening for the bigger acts, but like dive bar shows where there's no stage, open floor, everyone's just kind of crowded around you, when I can get and spit and scream in your face. I fucking love that. That always, those shows are the ones that always tend to be more memorable and fun for us.
I definitely agree. Like I've gone to some big acts this year. It's been cool. Like I went to the first ever metal show at the Hard Rock Casino in Indiana. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
But like I've been to mostly club and like smaller dive bar shows this year, and they're just awesome. I think obviously it's more of an intimate setting, because like the band's right there, and usually the stage is like 2 feet tall or less, so there's no stage.
Yeah.
But I always have fun at those.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%, dude. It's just like you said, it's easier to vibe, you know what I mean, and feel like you're part of it versus being separated by the divide and the barricade and whatnot,
Oh, definitely. I love when bands like get off the stage and interact with the crowd. I love that, because it's just cool. It's not something you're going to see at a huge event or like a national headlining show.
Yeah. The like I said, the Attila show, that was crazy, because there was a relatively big stage. It wasn't super high, but there was a barricade. And what was nice about it was I could step from the stage on the back of the barricade, there was like steps there. So I could actually step and stand on the barricade and move across. And I was able to like get down and whatnot. And like people were, it was a good show. It was a really, it's like I said, that was probably one of my favorites for them kind of bigger shows with the bigger acts and whatnot. But yeah, interacting with the crowd if I can is always a must.
Oh, definitely, for sure. I mean, it's cool just for me, even just watching it, to see the band interact with the crowd. I always think it's something cool, and sometimes you don't see as many bands doing that, so it's always cool when bands actually do that.
Well, I mean, now too, it's kind of one of them things with COVID. Like,
oh yeah,
it's like, is it in good taste to get in people's, you know what I mean? Like, just because obviously there's a pandemic, contagious diseases and whatnot, and even in general too, it's fall going into winter. It's flu and cold season. You know what I mean? Even outside of COVID. So
definitely,
we do what we do. Got to put on a show.
For sure. And as I kind of said in the intro, so obviously we're talking about Nine Stitch Method, the band you're a part of, but I also want to touch about some of the other bands as well, as I said you're a part of. So Seethe, I believe, that's like your own kind of solo project, I want to say. Or is
yeah. I started Seethe last year. That was kind of born out of the pandemic. Just because we I'm trying to remember. It feels like yesterday, but it feels like it's been so long ago at the same time. We had the last show we played before the pandemic, we played a horror con in Pittsburgh. It was a BBE sponsored show. We played the horror con, and we had plans to go on the road. We were supposed to go up to New York and whatnot, and all that kind of fell through. You know what I'm saying? And with Yeti's situation, like, me and Yeti are about 45 minutes apart. It's really not that bad of a drive, but like, he lives with his parents and his mom has a lot of health issues. So we were like, okay, we're going to put this down, and, until, the things kind of pass, then we'll pick it up. But I'm always doing something, always writing, always, and I'd always wanted to do something more electronic based, like Queen of the Damned and whatnot. That was always my bread and butter growing up. I wanted to do that kind of project forever, but whenever you're solo, you don't have anybody else there to be like, that kind of sounds like shit. Like, no. So it was weird kind of going from what I did with 9SM and going into that. And I've released a bunch of material through that project. It's been received relatively good. I've gotten to play a couple shows off of it this year. Got a pretty good response and whatnot. Last show I did with it was August. I opened up for King 810. And that's probably the last show I'm going to do with it, just because I don't get as much fun out of playing that stuff solo versus 9SM. So I had a really, really good show with that, and probably just keeping it more or less a recording project at this point.
That makes sense. It was cool. Obviously, with the pandemic, you're still obviously able to do stuff. I've talked to a few other solo artists who are also part of other bands. And I just like doing my solo stuff for fun, just to put it out there to keep my mind going. Yeah. But it's not something I really want to take to the stage.
Yeah. It's like I said, those shows I did were fun. I played a really, really big house show back in May. Went out, traveled over to Ohio. That was actually my first show. Traveled out of state for it. Did a couple other small shows. Then I ended it on King 810, and it felt like I had a really good set, got a pretty good crowd response. Like, it felt like the right time to be like, all right, we're just going to focus on 9SM for live shows and whatnot. But it was more or less like some say like that I could do it, that I did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Plus, you had a really nice send off with it too. That leave on a high note, pretty much.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome. And also another band I want to chat about, because I know me and Zach were going to be featuring this on our November broadcast for First Listen Media. That is South Clarity. So I was talking to Zach about it. He didn't have too much information for me about it. So I'm going to ask you. So how did that project come together?
South Clarity's been around since 2018. Okay. I want to say how that happened was I met Gus Wallner. He is a producer, instrumentalist, musician out of Brazil. Met him on Facebook. Him and I just started shooting the shit. I don't even know how it happened, but he had a YouTube channel and whatnot, and I was going through his channel, subscribing and checking him out, supporting him because he was really cool. And I was like, yo, like, you mind if I jump on one of these tracks? And he's like, do you have material of you recorded already? And I'm like, yeah. So I sent him over some 9SM demos. And he was like, hell yeah, let's do some tunes. And kind of the rest is history. Like from that, like on the 9SM's material now, like Gus programs our drums, he records the bass and stuff for us, he mixes and masters. Whenever I ended up coming to take over Brutal Business Entertainment, I brought him in as an in-house engineer, a partner business wise. And we just put out a full length earlier this year called Beyond Definition. And that was kind of like a sum of all the tracks we had done over the course of the last 3 years. And it is like, I didn't want to put it out that way. Gus was adamant on it. Because to me, like, as time has progressed, my voice has gotten better since we first started. So like, you know how it is. You always record something, you do something, you're like, I'm super proud. And later on down the line, you're like, why did you, that's not how you do that. But it's a cool little time capsule. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback on it, and, you know, people liking the project and whatnot. So, Rive, our newest track, we put it out exclusively through the Brutal Business 2021 compilation. We're going to do a video and stuff eventually. And then I actually was just tinkering around with vocals for a new song that I got to ship over to him later on today. So yeah, it's a great project, man. Like him and I, like I said, he works together on 9SM. He produces all my Seethe stuff. We do that together. And a lot of times we have artists from Brutal Business come over here and record with me, and then he'll put the bells and whistles and finish mixing and mastering. It's a really good partnership, dude. He's an amazing human being, hardworking. Can't say enough good things about the man.
Yeah, it definitely sounds really great. It's also cool how I believe, again, going off your interview with Zach, you've actually never met in person. This has been purely online.
No, yeah. Like we've web chatted a bunch of times and whatnot. We talk to each other, you know, just about every day. You know, it's funny too. It's like whenever we're drinking or partying or whatever, like we just send each other like drunk video clips and whatnot. And I will tell you what, the people in Brazil get down. Like every day is a block party, barbecue, chilling by the pool and shit. Like, I don't know how they do it, because like they all, you know, like Gus, for example. Gus is a family man. He's got a wife. He's got 2 daughters. You know, he works for some kind of firm for some kind of computer desk job or whatever, you know. But he does all that. He does all of his own stuff musically, be it me, other clientele, his own channel, and then he parties all the time. It's like, it must be a different time continuum or something down there. It's crazy. Absolutely nuts.
They probably discover endless time, like a time warp or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is all really awesome. Definitely check out all the 9 Method, Seethe, and South Clarity. Definitely check all that out. As I said, we'll be featuring South Clarity on the November broadcast. But a big thing I want to chat with you about. So you are the owner of the record label Brutal Business Entertainment.
Yes.
But you didn't start out as the owner. So how did you get involved with Brutal Business?
Well, I'm going to mute my phone real quick. My chat's blowing up. It was kind of weird, dude. But, okay, so Brutal Business has been around since 2011. It originally, Garrett Jagerman, a.k.a. the artist known as Skippy Ickham, started it, and it was this thing for many, many years. It was primarily a hip-hop and horrorcore label. And they did a lot of cool shit, dude, opening up for like big acts like Tech Nine, Twisted. What was it? Was Shaggy? Yeah, Shaggy Too Dope in that. Yeah, they're ICP. Yeah, they opened up for like ICP and stuff like that. And I had actually played a show. Well, 9SM had played a show with Skippy Ickham. Like, it was 2018, I want to say. We really didn't talk. Like, I knew of him, you know, throughout the scene and whatnot. Heard, you know, a lot of people talked about him, and found out he owned this label. And it's kind of one of them things I started watching online, and, you know, and we weren't 9SM's a new metal, deathcore band, metalcore, whatever you want to be. We're a hodgepodge of things. But it was kind of like, we're this 2-piece band. They have like some heavy music over there, but it's primarily hip hop. It's dark. We really didn't necessarily fit, but we liked what they were doing as a collective. It was very, you know, help one, help all type deal. So we reached out, and Garrett, we had a couple meetings, and Garrett had us, and it was kind of the rest is history. We signed on. It was very beginning of 2019. Played a couple shows, like BB, has always thrown shows or whatnot, kind of everybody, we got to meet everybody that way. They threw a show and they had us out, and the rest is history, dude. It was weird because I was very, very involved right from the get-go. I didn't necessarily try to be. That's just kind of always how I am. But like I kind of became like his secondhand man in a lot of ways. And as time went on going into 2020, Garrett had wanted to step down, put it up because he'd had it for, 10, 11 years at that point. And he wanted to pursue other things. Him and his wife were having kids and whatnot. He's very, very big into like the occult and different religions and whatnot. So he wanted to focus on his practices and stuff like that. And he hit me up and he was like, yo, I'm thinking of putting this down. I want to give you the keys to the kingdom. If you don't want it, I'm going to, call it a day with Brutal Business. But if you want it, you can have it. And it was like, okay, like this is weird. And we talked a lot about it. And I think it was May of 2020 whenever we finally made it official and he stepped out, which is weird because it was weird going from a peer to a boss, and I couldn't have picked a worse friggin' time to come into trying to run a label. Because at that point, like mostly like BBE got out from playing shows and whatnot, and that was all taken away from us. And the other hard thing too, which kind of goes into where BBE is today, is like I'm a metal and hard rock vocalist. I'm not a rapper. In the hip hop world versus like the rock and metal world are two totally different animals. So that's definitely been a struggle on my part. Because like things like, we'll go with this podcast and, online radio stations, I can throw a stone any which direction and find somebody to interview a rock or metal artist, but finding good coverage for hip hop, it's on a local level. That's tough. There's a lot of things I could do, but it costs a lot of money, a lot more than I got currently. But yeah, it's been interesting, dude. I mean, people have come, people have gone. We're sitting at I would like to think a pretty damn good place right now with the roster. It's about 50-50 between, the hip hop, and we got some, mainly everybody's based around the tri-state area up here. We got some guys that are like, Kaimo from the Marion Drain Project. He's out in Washington. We have Kill the Noise and Sick Fist. They're down in Texas and Florida and whatnot. We have some people over in Ohio too, the next state over, but we got a pretty good group of people here.
Yeah, definitely. And just kind of learning more about your roster, obviously with me working with Zach.
Which, thank you, by the way. We greatly appreciate it.
It was kind of cool how I met him. I met him through DI Records, who also you were good friends with as well. Dakota put him in a chat with a few other podcasters, and I was like, hey, if you ever need help with anything, just let me know. And he hit me up, kind of what's the ins and outs about stuff. So we started talking, and then a few months ago, he's like, hey, I need a co-host. You interested? And I'm like, sign me up. Let's do this.
Yep.
So it's been awesome working with him. But yeah, that's how I discovered obviously more about Brutal Business. I heard about you guys, but didn't really know too much about you until I started working with him. But yeah, you guys got a very solid roster, I think.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think a big thing for us was not that there was bad quality before or anything like that, but like I wanted to make sure that there was more quality control, making sure that everything was tight, and like, some people, they're better performers than they are at recording, and it goes vice versa too. But like we brought Gus in to kind of and working with everybody to make sure that like we could get the best out of them going out, and that's, if something's going out, it represents not only the artists themselves, but us, you know what I mean? So, I mean, it's been pretty cool to be a little bit more involved like that in what the artists are doing. I mean, they have free reign to do pretty much whatever they want, but to take everything up an extra notch in that way has been awesome to see, and seeing guys step to the next level. A lot of my guys, we have some guys that are very green. We have guys that have been around the scene for a while, so we kind of work with everybody and anyone in between. It's more of a, you get out of it what you put into it, I guess, is a really good way to say.
I for sure agree with that, and that really just applies to anything like my podcast, your music, anybody really. You have to put the time and effort into it.
100%. 100%. It's been, this year has been, for everything bad that has happened, something good has happened, vice versa. It's been a year of growth, year of blessings and curses and whatnot. I think everybody's coming out of COVID, everybody's different than before, the way we lived and the way we operated prior to 2020 was forever changed, so it's been kind of like, what do we do now? Where do we go from here? So it's been definitely a growing period and an awakening for everybody.
I definitely agree with that. You got to take the good with the bad and keep going, pretty much. I mean, that's what I've been doing with everything. But yeah, definitely seen growth with you guys. Definitely, just even in the last couple of months of me knowing about you guys, I've definitely seen you guys are definitely stepping stuff up.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's like I'll give you an example. This past week, we were supposed to, November 20th, we were supposed to have our Brutal Christmas show. And it was, we teamed up with the Butler hip hop community. Yeah, Butler hip hop community. And the show was a collaboration between BBE and Ancient One Entertainment. But with the Butler hip hop community, it was a veterans food drive. So we were, raising awareness about that, getting donations and whatnot, and had a stacked up lineup for the show. And unfortunately, the owner of the venue passed away. And right before Thanksgiving and the holidays, it's always a pain in the ass to try and reschedule something quickly like that. Everywhere's booked up, or, a lot of people aren't doing shows anymore because of COVID. So we kind of had to put a kibosh on the show for now, but we were still able to donate a bunch of stuff to the Veterans Food Cupboard, which at the end of the day, that's really all that counts. We've always done charity work and stuff like that. We do the Extra Life game streaming events every year. That goes to the Children's Miracle Network. We've done shows in the past for different families that were in need, Humane Society, stuff like that, dude. We always like to integrate that kind of stuff into it. You got to give back to the community.
I definitely agree with, obviously you got to give back to the community that's helped you out so much. I definitely agree with that. And I saw the show, and then I saw the post a few days before the show that's been canceled. But at least you still had the goal was to donate food to the veterans. And you guys were still able to do that.
It was terrible too, because everybody got sick. I know Demo Demon got sick. He was praying to get through it, or something happened to where he didn't want to drop off, but I got sick. I've had this cold for a week and a half now. I'm on the tail end of it, but it's still Yeti got an abscessed tooth. Homie looked like he took a big pack of Red Man and just stuffed the whole package in his mouth. He was like this, it was like, holy crap, dude. What's going on? So I don't know. It is what it is. Like I said, you just got to roll with the punches. Life has a way of staring and navigating it, whether you like it or not.
I definitely agree with that. And before we talk about the new releases you got coming up for Brutal Business, I got a question for you, because I'm just curious.
Okay.
So going back a few years ago, if anyone said, "Hey, you're going to own a record label," what would be your reaction to that?
I would have laughed. I would have laughed, and I never would have believed it. Honestly, if you'd have told me over 5 years ago that I was going to be a singer and I was going to be working with people worldwide, I would have laughed too, because the singing thing hasn't been around very long, and it's just weird knowing where I came from. And not that I'm the best now, but I mean, what I'm doing now and working with now, it's like, how did I get here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was just curious about it, because I know if anyone would have told me the people I've worked with and what I've been doing now, I wouldn't have believed them. So I was just curious looking where you started to where you are now.
Yeah, 100%. There's just times I'll be doing something and I'll be like, how did I get here? Why did I, it blows my mind. But like we just said a little bit ago, life has a weird way of just kind of, you don't know. You don't know. You think you know, but you don't know.
Yes, and if you think you're for sure, and it's nothing. Only thing for sure.
It has a way of just taking the puzzle pieces and just shifting them around on you.
When you think you have all the answers, life changes the questions.
Exactly. Yes. Very, very true.
All right, so some big releases coming up for Brutal Business. Obviously, we have Marion Drain, Seethe, and South of Clarity. So can you expand a little bit about those releases? What can people expect, when they will be released, that kind of thing?
Yeah, Marion Drain, that's interesting. So it was kind of one of them things that was birthed over COVID. I had met Kaimo. He's the composer and mixing engineer and whatnot behind Marion Drain. Him and I had once again met on Facebook. I think it was in like a deathcore vocalist community page on Facebook. He's like, hey, I got this track. Does anybody want to collab and do vocals on it? And everyone was like, me, but nobody dropped any of their material, like what they do or, what they sound like. And I obviously have 5 million projects. So dropped in some of what I thought was best, and it just kind of stuck, him and I hit it off. He really liked it. And we did the first song, Mutation. And that was all we pretty much did for last year. We kept talking about wanting to do more, and we just never got around to it. And starting at the beginning of 2021, we were like, all right, let's do something with this. So we have I believe the EP is coming out in December. That project is turning and taking a different route. This will probably be, I might feature on a couple tracks in the future here and there, but mainly Kaimo, because Kaimo is a talented vocalist in itself. Like, I didn't know the dude could sing at the time. And he went live on Facebook and he was doing karaoke. And I was like, why are you even working with me? But he played his first show this past weekend. I had a lot of success and whatnot with it, going solo, doing the one-man band thing. But out of the 5 songs, 4 out of 5, I do lead vocal on the song This Promise. He does the lead vocal. And with the new material he's working on, like I said, he's planning on playing shows and doing that. He's pretty much going to be taking the reins and going with it from there, which is pretty cool to see in itself. Because like I said, I was like, you're talented. You need to be doing this. Like, you don't need me. So he's really taking the ball and running with it. I'm really, really proud of how the EP's turned out. It's some of my favorite songs that I've gotten to record over the last couple of years. So that's exciting. South of Clarity, like I said, we have our new single Rive out on the Brutal Business 2021 mixtape, Songs of an Unconventional Hell. We'll be releasing that on all streaming platforms here soon. We have more songs in the works. Seethe, let me see here. I know next weekend, because it's been a crazy, crazy busy year. I've been on a mess ton of features and fortunate enough to work with people around the Pittsburgh area to people on the other side of the globe. I'm putting out a free mixtape, free for download, featuring some of my favorite collabs and features on all the different projects I've had this year. And that'll be called Lucid, a collection of thoughts out amongst the ether. That'll be dropping next weekend. It'll have some unreleased Seethe tracks from this year, a cover, and like I said, a bunch of features and collabs I've been fortunate enough to be a part of. And then a couple weeks after that, my new EP, Nihilist Meet Optimist, Optimist Meet Nihilist, that'll be dropping middle of December, which I'm pretty stoked about that, because for the artwork, we had the Babes of Brutal Business do the poses and whatnot for the artwork. So it was nice to get them involved and stuff too. But I'm pretty stoked on that EP. I feel it's my most solid work as a cohesive project of like what I always imagined Seethe to be. I feel it's kind of sets the mark for where I need to be in the future with it. So pretty damn excited and proud of it. It's dark, it's heavy, but there's, some melody and whatnot and crazy electronic chaos and shit. So yeah, that's going to be good. 9SM, we are working on an EP. We got some pretty we're planning on hitting the road and whatnot come 2022. We got some other cool things up our sleeves, but we're kind of laying low and just recording and making sure everything's perfect and stuff. So 2022, we'll be hitting the ground pretty hard and heavy with that.
But definitely look forward to all those releases. Sound really awesome, especially with everything coming out. I definitely look forward to listening to Seethe. I haven't listened to too much of it right now, but I definitely look forward to hearing the new EP when that drops. Marion Drain is awesome. I think me and Zach featuring a song, I believe, on our November broadcast with that.
I think you guys are including Swept Away on that. I believe that's correct.
Sounds right. I just like you, I have so many projects I'm working on that it's like I know that name sounds familiar. I just can't.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the hardest thing. Like I said, I've been very blessed with being able to work with so many talented people, but it gets to a point. It's like I have like all these projects going on. How do I keep everything straight and promoting and whatnot? It's just glutton for punishment, dude. Glutton for punishment.
I feel you on that, and to me, like it's like I can do the projects. Like I love doing that. But like the stuff I sometimes forget about that I'm trying to do better with is like the social media sides. Like I did this awesome project. Now I have to tell everybody I did this awesome project kind of thing.
And like anything in life, you know, to properly do it, you have to spend money. So it's like,
yes, I agree with that.
Oh man, but it is what it is, though.
Yeah, definitely for sure. But something you touched on, I'd just like to expand. So the Babes of Brutal Business, anyone not familiar with that? What is that? What do they do?
Sorry about that. Okay, so the Babes of Brutal Business is our modeling division. Currently, my wife, Rebecca McElravy, she actually runs that, helps manage it and whatnot. Comprised of, we have 6 models. We have Layla Page, Crazy Kitty, Drew Lux, Stingray, Cassandra Von Creep, and Wildcard 666. And all extremely not just beautiful. I mean, obviously, you know, modeling, yes, but I mean, extremely creative and just very strong women. And it's pretty, whenever I first got the label, that was probably the most daunting task. Being a man, never having anything to do with modeling or how to run a modeling division and whatnot, and coming into it with, you know, 5, 6 very strong, independent, creative women. And it got to the point we've had, like I said, we just in general with the roster, we've had people come, we've had people go, but like right away, I was like, I am in over my head. I don't know what I'm doing. So my wife stepped in and she kind of took over it, and she's done a pretty damn good. I can't, compared to what it was, this is probably the best the modeling division has looked ever. Like that's one thing I'm very, very proud of that we have done. Just the girls having content to put out, and just in general, the quality of photos and stuff that they do. Some of them have been in music videos. Yeah, they've been in a couple of music video projects. One of them, Cassandra Von Creep, she's in a horror movie that's coming out called Fucked, Rock, Paper, Scissors. That'll be coming out, I believe, in 2022. Wildcard 666, she runs the company Nightmares and Dreams Photography. She runs an e-zine and whatnot with that too. Just always stuff, dude. And that's the thing too. It's cool about Brutal Business is like people aren't just game streamers or models or just musicians. Like almost everybody has some sort of side hustle. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's just so talented and so innovative. You know what I mean? It's just, it's a great group of people to work with, man. I'm truly blessed. We might not always get along, might not always see eye to eye, but like, it's a great group of people to work with for sure, dude.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. Obviously, I've checked out your other pages as well and everything, and it's cool. It's really cool with everything you're doing. As you said, it's not just music, gaming, or modeling. It's like you guys all come together to form some really cool projects too. Yeah.
Like we have, like I said, we have multiple people that do photography, graphic design, videography. You know, not just like recording music, but we have audio engineers. We have people that work in promotional companies and stuff. We have people that write. It's just a bit of everything, dude. It's crazy. Because like Cassandra Von Creep, how we met her, that horror con that I mentioned that we played last year. We actually met her. She was a vendor. She has her own jewelry line, and like that's her main bread and butter is, you know, making jewelry and whatnot, you know, like dark aesthetics and whatnot, dude. It's just it's crazy, dude. They're totally amazingly talented bunch.
Definitely, for sure. And as I kind of wrap up this interview, just got a few quick things. So I'm kind of curious. So like, obviously you're a musician, but you're also owner of a record label. So like, what's some advice for up and coming musicians, like musically and kind of like business wise as well?
A big thing is always roll hard in the yard and be professional. When you think you've done enough, you haven't done enough. And a big thing, and this is no disrespect to anybody that might watch this, but like a huge thing that grinds my gears is whenever somebody just drops a link in my messenger. They're like, hey, check out my SoundCloud single. And it's like, no, dude, like you have to be like you got to be personable and you got to be professional. And especially for the musicians, like, and this is something that I've learned the hard way over the years. And I can't stress this enough. If you're starting up a project, if you're starting up a band, always make sure you have a decent product going out that's going to represent you. Don't record something on your iPhone and, you know, that's like live, you guys playing in your basement and put it out. No, like and with the technology we have nowadays, you know, there's a lot of things you can do that'll sound decent, sound good on a budget, but make sure you put out something good that represents you. Don't be what's the patience? You can't take away the work and whatnot of a slow but steady grind. You know, every now and then, like you'll have somebody like Zach just did an interview with a band that became famous overnight because of their song catching on TikTok. You know, stuff like that happens, but more often than not, no. You know, always be professional with your peers. Always support, you know, try to share other people's stuff, you know, try to just mingle and network and connect. And don't break the rule of the universe. Don't be a dick. You know, do unto others as you would have done to you. That's how I roll in this business.
I definitely agree with that. With everything you said, because like I big pet peeve I have is that people just send me links, like no context, just here's a link in my email or inbox or whatever.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I don't know who you are. I don't know anything about you. I don't know your band. I don't have any information. So that's why, like, when people send me like a well-written email, I usually respond very quickly because like they took the time to write everything out. They attached everything, pictures, links, the track. Sometimes people, I don't know if people don't understand, like to get radio play, I need more than a YouTube link. I need the actual physical track to put into my podcast.
It comes down to it too, because you and I are in the same situation where we have these people, they have their goals, they have this craft and art that they're doing, but we get hit with people all the time from all over. And it comes down to the point, like, I have a bunch of people in my inbox. Why should I care about you? Exactly. And you know what I mean? And some professional and cordial etiquette goes a long way, dude. And that's something that a lot of people unfortunately miss nowadays. And that's why nobody ends up fucking with their material, and they get mad and they whine and complain on Facebook. And it's like, take a step back, look around and see, what are you doing wrong? You know what I mean? It's just, you got to learn. You got to start from somewhere. You know what I'm saying? It takes time.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. And one real quick thing, I'll move on. I've had two people do this to me this week, and I don't know if it's a trend, but they'll email me, and then they'll, like, 5 minutes later, message my Instagram to say if they got my email. It's like, I haven't even looked at anything yet. Like, I was out to lunch. Like, I haven't even checked my email. I can be guilty of that, but I don't go about it in quite that kind of fashion, because everybody has email. Most people have Facebook. Most people have Instagram, yada, yada. And everybody has their one that they mainly keep tabs on. So, like, say, for example, like, I think I emailed you.
if I email you a couple days later, I might send the same message to your Facebook, or then I might send it to your, you know what I mean? Like, just because maybe they didn't get that, or maybe they didn't check it. Maybe it went, but like, I try to space it out a little bit.
Yeah. I don't mind being spaced out, but like, it was literally like, I got the email and then I got a message on Instagram, and it's like, slow down a little bit, man. I haven't looked at anything.
And it's just because there's times, because like I've worked in the promotional side of the industry too, and it's one of them things, you get bombarded. Sometimes shit get past you. You know what I mean? It's good to follow up, but like, have a little bit of etiquette and patience. You know what I'm saying?
Patience goes a long way with stuff. Some I found out, like, I've met a bunch of different podcasters and like radio station personalities and whatever, and it's always kind of weird. Like, most of them, I don't know why. It must be a podcasting or radio station thing, but they're not very super nice. Like, I've tried talking to them, kind of like, hey, how do you, kind of just even just talking about them or like their station, or just kind of how'd you get started or whatever. And it's always interesting. So like, I've done interviews with people, and they're like, yo, you're like some of the nicest, like one of the nicest interviewers I've ever met. And I'm like, I just try to be, humane to everybody and nice. It shouldn't be hard. Okay, so I'm gonna sound like a prick for what I'm about to say. When I stepped into the PR side of things, that was a question. That was something I always thought, and I was like, I don't understand why people get so and why they get jaded. But I'll be real with you, dude. And being a label head, I'm not talking shit on anybody. It's just, it is what it is. Musicians can be a pain in the ass to work with. Not, sometimes maybe like their intentions are good, but their follow through is lacking. Maybe they're just kind of sloppy about stuff. Maybe they're just egotistical when they're just like me, I'm important. Like, you need to focus on me now. Fuck whatever you got going on. There's some days I'm just like, oh my God, and that's not even necessarily, like I said, like not even necessarily my guys. Stuff happens with them that sometimes I'm just like, but no, just in general, creative type people just are very fickle. They're very, they have their goals and whatnot, and they don't care. They're just like, this is what I'm working on, and I'm trying to conquer this. But from our end of things, we're so spread out, and with what we have going on, like for example, the other day you were like in December, like I'm already trying to get my December schedule lined up, just stuff like that. But it's just, it can be very, very hard, and it's not always nice being on this side of the thing. No, I've definitely run into people who make me question why I do this, but
but it's the good ones. The good ones always make it, they kind of bring you back, and they're like, this is why I'm doing this.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like what you're saying, like I try to always plan stuff out ahead of time. That's why, like, obviously it's end of November, but I'm also planning out December, because it's like, well, the end of season's coming up. I can't accept any more, as many interviews right now, because I'm trying to wrap everything up. Yep. So that's kind of why I have to plan out so much that I don't overbook, is pretty much, that's why I do it. But yeah, there's some people who, like, I've run into who are like, hey, got to do an interview this week. That's the only time available. And it's like, well, I'm sorry. That's just, I can't do it. But I've definitely run into people like that. But I always just try to make it up just by being, the most nice person I can, with given the situation and depending on how they approach me, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
But but it's always interesting. Like, I know obviously Zach, he's a great guy. I've worked with some other podcasts. I've been guests on podcasts, and there's definitely a lot of great people out there. But it's always, running into the other people, it just doesn't reflect podcasting or radio station, I think.
Yes. No, I feel it, dude, 100%. I understand.
Definitely. But as I wrap up this interview, so anyone's interested, where can they check out Brutal Business, 9 Decision Method, Seethe, and South of Clarity online?
Brutal Business, you can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, at teambrutalbusiness.com. 9 Stitch Method, we're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all major streaming platforms. South of Clarity, we're on Facebook. I don't think we don't have an Instagram. YouTube, Mary and Drain. We have a couple singles out, but we'll be releasing our debut EP come next month at some point in December. Be sure to check out You Think Music. Like I said, Gus that's his recording business and whatnot. You know, he works heavily with us and in a lot of my projects and with Brutal Business Entertainment. So You Think Music, the Babes of Brutal Business. You can find all of their stuff on Facebook, Instagram, and whatnot. We have the Gruesome Gazette, which is a online e-zine based around horror movies and horror cons and whatnot. You know, we have the game streaming team. We do that as well. We host multiple charity events throughout the year. Yeah, Facebook right now is kind of the main hub, and Instagram. And I think that's pretty much about it.
I'm going to leave quite a few of those links in the description of this podcast. Make sure to check that out as well. Last thing before we go. So what are the plans for 2022? It's already November of 2021. So what's kind of the plans for next year?
The plan for next year, that's hard to say. We've done a lot. My plan is to hit the road with 9 Stitch Method, get out there. Done a lot of freelance work and features over the course of 2021. Keep that going as well. Want to set up more, host more Brutal Business shows, you know, bring other acts and whatnot on that aren't BBE, you know, do more of that. 9SM and Seethe, we're fortunate enough to get on in a book surrounding the whole new metal genre, so that was pretty cool. Maybe see something like that next year. I don't know. We're in the process of working on a movie soundtrack with somebody from down in Texas, so that'll be pretty cool. We'll have that coming out in 2022, featuring myself and a couple other BBE artists, so that's great. But yeah, man, it's just kind of come whatever may. We'll see.
Hey, dude, I like it. Definitely look forward to seeing what 2022 brings for Brutal Business and all the bands you work with and are part of. So please check out Stream Support, 9 Stitch Method, Seethe, South of Clarity. Make sure to check out Brutal Business. All the links will be in the description. Patrick, thank you so much for hanging out with me here on Super Cool Radio.
Thank you very much for having me on, dude. It's been great. Talk to you any time of the day, brother.
Hell yeah, dude, for sure. For Patrick of Brutal Business, I am your host, as always, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Super Cool Radio. Stay frosty.